Hello, I'm Donna from talkfeelchange.com, and today I'm going to speak about three main differences between speaking to a friend versus speaking to a therapist. And the main reason I'm making this vlog today is because I've had a couple of people come up to me and say, you know, Donna, I don't think I need therapy because I speak to my friend about all of my problems. And well, I think it's really good that you talk to your friends about what's happening in your life and talk about your difficulties. There is a big difference between speaking to a friend and speaking to a therapist. And I'd just like to highlight three main differences today. So consider these differences and think about whether or not therapy could work for you. Okay, so the first main difference is that the focus in therapy is all about you. And that's very different from a friendship, because if you start treating your friendship like a therapy session and you keep all of the focus on you, that can be very detrimental to your friendship. It can be extremely draining for your friend who doesn't get a chance to say how they are doing. There's no reciprocity, and they could start to feel like you're a little bit of a burden towards them. And if it's a one-sided friendship, then that might even make you feel quite guilty for putting all of your stuff onto your friend all the time. Whereas in a therapeutic relationship, I don't expect you to ask me about how my day was and how I'm doing. I've had a lot of psychological training and a lot of supervisors helping me to be aware of when I'm bringing the focus to me and to help me to keep the focus on you. I remember when I had my first therapy session as a client, I kept wanting to ask my therapist how she was doing. And she was very good at keeping the focus on me. And eventually it started to feel very comfortable speaking about myself. Although it really didn't feel comfortable at the beginning, it's because it was a very different kind of relationship. And because she was able to keep the focus on me, I was able to do the therapeutic work and really help myself to grow. So that's a very important aspect of the therapeutic relationship. The second main difference between a therapist and a friend is that as a therapist, I will probably ask you a lot more challenging questions than a friend would ask. And as a therapist, I've had years of training, psychological training and different theoretical understandings of human behavior. And it's this theory that will often underpin the sort of questions that I ask and will make them a lot more challenging. A friend might feel a bit afraid of asking such questions because of the range of emotions that it could stir up. But as a therapist, I'm well prepared to handle these emotions and stay with you and help you to work with them and ultimately to feel better. I don't just listen to what you're telling me as a friend, I'm listening as a therapist, and that's quite a different way of listening to something. On the one hand, I'm listening to the content and the story of what you're saying, and on the other hand, I'm also listening for underlying self-beliefs and maybe trying to identify negative patterns that you keep repeating. And I need to be listening in this sort of way because these are the sorts of things that are going to inform the questions that I ask you, that the challenging questions that we need to address in order for you to ultimately move forward. It's almost impossible to ask a friend these sorts of deep questions in a social setting. And a therapeutic setting is very different sort of environment and a different sort of relationship. And so a therapist is able to ask very different sorts of questions. These are questions I wouldn't really even ask my own friends. And they're questions that even a really strong friendship would really struggle to deal with. Okay, and the third difference between speaking to a friend and a therapist is that everything you say to a therapist is confidential. So unless the therapist feels that you are going to harm yourself or you're going to harm someone else, then you don't have to worry about me going and blabbing to someone else. It's not going to happen. And if it did, I would have to deal with some very serious legal repercussions. And so because of this confidentiality, you as the client are able to open up and be vulnerable and real on a whole new level, because there is that deeper sense of trust. And that can be quite different from a friendship. So those are three main differences between speaking to a therapist and speaking to a friend. And if you'd like to find out more, you can check out my website. I'll leave it in the description. It's talkfeelchange.com. And if you feel like therapy would be helpful for you, then just contact me and we can set up a session. Okay, cheers for now.